StudyIQ IAS, आपका सिलेक्शन हमारा मिशन।
Hi everyone, this is Dr. Anamta Rizvi, a UPSC English Literature educator, and today I'm going to talk about Indian English poetry. In your UPSC English Literature syllabus, ज़्यादा आपके पास Indian English poets नहीं है. There's only one poet that is included in your course, and that is A.K. Ramanujan. उनकी जो poem है A River, that is included in your course. However, because Indian English poetry being our subject, being the subject of this land, this country, it's a very likely question that you would be asked on contextual analysis of the poem or write a short note on Indian English poetry. Now today I will be explaining to you the idea of Indian English poetry, how it is, when it came, what are the ideologies, what are the thematic concerns that are represented in this poetry. Then I won't be keeping the lecture very long. मैं एक short में आपको समझाना चाहती हूँ. So this is something that's very, very important for you all to understand, that Indian English poetry started in the 19th century, right? When Henry Thoreau, Toru Dutt, Sarojini Naidu, all these writers started writing excellent works. However, उनकी जो poetry थी, it was like a imitation, a mimic of the works that was by British poets. Romantic sensibilities thi, Victorian sensibilities thi. So they just picked up those thematic concerns and tried to position it in the Indian context. Independence hua, and of course people continued writing in Indian English poetry. But post 1950, there was a complete revolution in this idea of Indian English poetry. Why? Because उनके जो thematic concerns थे, जो motives थे, symbols थे, themes थे, they were no more romantic sensibilities or Victorian sort of motifs. Nothing was there. It was a modern sensibilities that was reflected in their works. And most importantly, they talked about those aspects which actually mattered to them at that point of time. So imagine a country that has just got independence. कितना difficult times होगा, country अपने आप को assimilate कर रही थी, अपनी identity बनाने की कोशिश कर रही थी, अपने आप को ideologically strong बनाने की कोशिश कर रही थी. Now, literature does play a role in creating and carving an identity. So writers, because modern sensibility se badh ke, they started talking about the alienation, alienation जो उनको feel होता था उस time पे, anxieties जो उनको feel होती थी, एक तरीके का उनको, they used to feel that कैसे ये जो world है कितना ordinary experiences अपने बात करने लगे थे, जो भी experiences थे, mundane experience, anything that was very profound or बहुत ही celebratory बातें, but mundane ordinary experiences, they started using it. Isolation was another important thematic concern. They used to feel isolated, we feel in this modern world the connections are lesser, these kind of ideas which used to reverberate in the works of T.S. Eliot, W.B. Yeats, W.H. Auden, and so on. So Nisimizical, I would say the mentor of the modern Indian English poets, he was the one who actually mentored everyone regarding Indian English poetry. So चाहे आदिल जसुवाला हो गया, A.K. Ramanujan, Kamla Das, K.K. Daruwala, Jeev Patel, R. Parthasarathi, or Jayanta Mahapatra, you name any poet that you know, they formed the canon of Indian English poetry. By the word canon, I mean the representatives of Indian English poetry were meticulously chosen, and they were the ones who said that yes, they would be studied. Now, A.K. Ramanujan is included in your course, and A.K. Ramanujan is a very profound poet. Kannada में भी लिखते थे, English में भी लिखते थे, and he really mattered at that time as well as today. He won a lot of prizes. He also played a very, very pivotal role in establishing Indian English poetry on the world forum. Why? Because he won a lot of prizes. Commonwealth Prize मिला है उनको अपने work के लिए. So keeping that in mind, we would be studying A.K. Ramanujan. Though as I always say that UPSC should include more Indian English poets in their course. However, ये आपके poetry आपके course में है, and it is very important because yes, the contextual analysis is very important because 100% a question in your exam can come, write a short note on Indian English poetry. Though there is one poet, but that does not exclude this idea that this question can be asked. All right. So I'll be going ahead. This is a very small, kind of, you can say, a snippet of how I conduct my classes. जो मैं notes अभी मैंने आपको जो समझाया है वो आपको full format notes में मिलता है in my classes, where and I every day at 1 p.m. we have our class, and the entire syllabus is taught to all of you. Jitna भी है, from be it paper 1 section AB, paper 2 section AB, everything is covered in the class. There's huge discourses, because UPSC wants to judge your analytical understanding, how you are grasping that work, that novel, that poem, that drama. And it's not about the summaries. It's not what the poem or the novel or the drama is saying. It is about why, how, and in what context it is saying. Okay, so instead of just narrating the content, the story of any literary text, it is important why has that been written, how that has been written, or you can say that, in what contextual or socio-political situation or socio-economic situation that has been written. So that's important. Now, coming back to our river, this is the poem that's included in your course. So if you really want to understand this work, it's very important. Very easily, the entire poem is very easily available online. You can just Google the river and उसके बारे में है. तो यहाँ पे I would say that एक रामानुजन ने एक बहुत stark reality दिखाई है. A river is something जो कि बड़ा रोमांटिसाइज किया जाता है कि रिवर है, हमें नेचर है, हमें it is because it symbolizes life, it gives us life. But यहाँ पे उसने रिवर को रोमांटिसाइज नहीं किया है, ग्लोरीफाई नहीं किया है. उसने बोला ये जो रिवर है ये एक जब लेवल से ऊपर चली जाती है, एंड उसने स्पेशल रिवर का जो नाम लिया है एंड उसके बारे में जो बात की, वो कहते हैं वो जो फ्लड लाता है कितनी तबाही होती है. So instead of glorifying that river, A.K. Ramanujan has made it into an experience that is a very stark reality of people at that time. Maybe those people who are not able to voice their predicament, and A.K. Ramanujan has been their voice. Okay? So on that note, let's start with our work. So the river, the poem is set where? This poem is set in Madurai. It's a city that is famous for its temples and poets. Now during summer the river almost dries up. So सबसे बड़ी बात है कि summers में जो सबसे ज़्यादा ज़रूरत रहती है हमें water की, it dries up. So it is not saying that this river needs to be venerated and worshipped. It's saying that this is the reality of the river. So its sand, stones, rusty bars, straw and other objects become visible. जो जितनी भी गंदगी रहती है, जितना भी filth रहता है river का, वो दिखता है साफ साफ कि इस river में ये है. Ramanujan describes the river realistically. बहुत realistically दिखाता है without doing any sugar coating, rather than presenting it as a beautiful, romanticized river, as a glorified river. The dry river shows the ordinary and unattractive side of nature that traditional poets usually ignore. So traditional poets, जो पहले के poets थे, जैसे romantic sensibilities जो दिखा देते, they could never even imagine to portray river in this light. But Ramanujan, being a modern Indian English poet, writing in 1960s, actually showed the very stark reality of this river. Now, during the rainy season, the river becomes full and powerful. The old poets celebrate the beauty and grandeur of the flood river. So, वो कह रहा है that our previous generation celebrated it is profoundly, in a very big way, in a very big fashion. However, I would show you what exactly how ordinary our experiences are, how ordinary experience with this river are, and how difficult it is. It's nothing to glorify. However, the flood also causes serious destruction. Serious destruction means loss of lives. It carries away 3 houses, 2 cows named Gopi and Brinda, and a pregnant woman. Ramanujan shows that what appears beautiful in poetry may actually be tragic in real life. So he's like that yes, things that are romanticized in beauty, in poetry, things that are given a very, kind of a beautiful aura about it, but might completely be very, very terrible in reality. Then you have the tragedy of the pregnant woman. So this is the very, the saddest imagery that Ramanujan could draw over here. The most painful image in the poem is that of the pregnant woman who is swept away by the flood. Okay, so imagine यहाँ पे कि this flood, जो river जो flooded हो जाती है, it has the power to take life as well. So Ramanujan imagined that she may have been carrying twins. The unborn children helplessly struggles inside her womb while she drowned. So can you imagine the plight of the woman who's kind of struggling to save herself, not only herself, but the child or the children inside her, because Ramanujan says that maybe there are two children, maybe there are twins that this pregnant woman is carrying. So though this image, the poet draws attention to the human suffering that the earlier poets failed to notice or describe. All right, so this is something that he's saying that, the early poets could not even imagine to talk about this, but not us, not the poets of the post-independence era, wherein we will be talking about the realities of anything, be it the nature, the circumstances, the country that we live in, or, anything. Then you have Ramanujan criticizes both the old and the modern poets. The old poets romanticize the flood but ignore its victims, and the new poets are equally insensitive because they simply repeat the old poetic description instead of presenting an original and compassionate view. So he's saying that instead of penning those thoughts which represent the reality, why are we doing exactly what our previous generation did? Why are we going ahead with those romantic sensibilities? Why are we glorifying the river when the stark reality needs to be presented? So this is kind of being a didactic poem to the new poets, like modern Indian English poets, that, talk about what is real. Talk about what is authentic, something that is true to your heart, true to nature. Talk about that. So the poem therefore argues that true poetry should not merely describe beauty, it should also recognize reality, suffering, and human experience, the core essential for which poetry is written. This was a very, very small way of how, kind of a coverage of how I teach, but there is more into it when I take my proper classes, जहाँ पे you purchase the course, you be a part of the course, and you listen to my lectures. You will see every line is explained, every context is explained, every word is analyzed, because poetry has anything can come from poetry. Any line can come, any textual analysis can come. But this is what is more important is that I teach you all just not to learn my notes. It's not that, this is the note and that you will have. My endeavor is to develop a sort of critical, analytical thinking in all my students, so that once the question comes in front of you, you are able to assess. चाहे वो prepare किया है question, चाहे वो prepare नहीं किया है, though we do a lot of practice writing questions, नहीं किया है, but you at least should have the ability to attempt that and answer a very, perfect answer for that. So, to tell you about the course, this is a very good opportunity for all my students to go ahead and purchase the course. So it's a limited time period, guys. It is only just remaining in few days are there in the month of July. So ये खत्म हो जाएगा कुछ time पे. If you want to know more about our course, you can call our executive. Everything is there in the description box, in the comment section. Call our executives, talk to them. If you want any guidance from me, you can talk to me and listen, and you can discuss anything. There are demo lectures that are also available. If you want to see how I conduct my classes, what are the notes that I give, anyone, you guys are free to talk or and consult me anytime. So I think I would just end my class. Remember, my code is AR Live. When you'll be purchasing the course, you can put my teacher's code here, AR Live, and you will get a good discount. So thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Most importantly, remember one thing, that in English literature, there is a possibility of several answers. It's just that you got to prove your answers in a very perfect format, in a very convincing language, in a very assertive tone. And you can really earn very good marks. So it's not about mugging up answers. It is about understanding your poetry, novel, or drama, and with your analysis, with your critical judgment, critical thinking, write a perfect answer. So thank you, everyone. I'll see you all in the class.
StudyIQ IAS. आपका सिलेक्शन, हमारा मिशन.